Speed, power, precision, these are the hallmarks of greatness, the qualities that take champions to victory. And for decades, one brand has been synonymous with peak athletic performance: Adidas. But what if the foundation of this empire was built on something far more sinister? What if the very symbol of achievement masked a disturbing past? The year was 1924, Bavaria, Germany. A vivid facade masked a growing darkness. In the town of Herzogenaurach, two brothers, Adolf, or Adi, and Rudolf Dassler, chased a dream, a shared passion for footwear. They built the Gebruder Dassler Schuhfabrik, which was a ray of hope in the face of impending turmoil. Adi, the visionary, was an artist with leather. His hands, guided by an innate talent, breathed life into innovative footwear. Rudolf, the shrewd businessman, ensured their creations reached the feet of athletes. Their early success was undeniable. Spikes, created by Adi's genius, enabled American athlete Jesse Owens to achieve a legendary win at the 1936 Olympics. However, beneath the facade of success, a malevolent force was gaining strength. The Nazi Party, a cancerous growth on the body politic, was tightening its grip on Germany. Adolf Hitler's venomous ideology seeped into every corner, poisoning the very air. The Dassler brothers, once united in their passion for sports, would not be immune. The idyllic image of the town of Herzogenaurach began to crumble, revealing the cracks of a world teetering on the edge of a disaster. A shared dream, once illuminated by hope, now flickered uncertainly in the gathering shadows. The brothers, once joined by a mutual aim, were now hurtling towards a clash with the shadow of impending doom looming over them. The year the Nazi Party gained power was the year the wolf arrived at Germany's door, teeth bared and eyes glowing with a hateful hunger. The Dassler brothers, caught in the tightening grip of this new regime, faced an agonizing choice between right and wrong. The survival of their business hung precariously in the balance. To keep the dream alive, they made a deal with the devil. Both brothers, in a moment of desperate pragmatism or perhaps a deeper entanglement with the rising tide of ideology, joined the Nazi Party. This single act, a Faustian bargain struck in the face of tyranny, would forever stain their legacy. Now, were they really true believers, swept up in the fervor of Nazi rhetoric? While some suggest a tepid participation, others point to chilling evidence. Their factory was designated as an official supplier for the Nazis' twisted vision of physical prowess. The very shoes crafted by Adi's ingenuity, adorned with the new iconic three stripes, became a part of the horrifying spectacle of the 1936 Berlin Olympics. This supposed celebration of athleticism was a carefully orchestrated stage play designed to show the myth of Aryan supremacy on the world stage. There were even letters signed with a chilling salutation: Heil Hitler. Now, one truth burns clear: they were not bystanders in this unfolding nightmare. They were, to some degree, complicit. One thing they didn't know was that the pact they made would forever alter the course of their lives, taking their own destinies into a horrific era of split. The world descended into a fiery abyss. A war was unleashed that swallowed Europe whole. The image of the small town of Herzogenaurach was obliterated, replaced by the relentless pounding of bombs and the acrid smoke of factories churning out the machinery of destruction. The Dassler brothers' shoe factory was no longer a haven for innovation. It had been requisitioned by the Nazi war machine, its purpose twisted to serve a malignant cause. This forced participation in the war effort further strained the already brittle bond between the brothers. Accusations flew like shrapnel, fueled by suspicion and a growing sense of betrayal. The whispers that had haunted the factory halls for years solidified into a chasm of mistrust. The pact with the devil had come at a terrible cost, not just to their legacy, but to their very brotherhood. By the war's brutal end, the Dassler family lay in ruins, a mirror image of their shattered dreams. The factory stood gutted. The bond between the brothers that was seemingly unbreakable had fractured beyond repair. This dramatic split, born from the ashes of war and betrayal, would sow the seeds of two sporting giants that would dominate the world stage: Adidas and Puma. Their bitter rivalry was the ultimate price paid for a Faustian bargain. The war finally sputtered to a halt, leaving behind a wasteland of shattered lives and broken dreams. As the dust settled and the victors surveyed the wreckage, a new battle began: the denazification of Germany. Allied forces meticulously sifted through the rubble of the Third Reich, searching for those who had actively participated in its horrors. The Dassler brothers found themselves caught in this web of scrutiny. Adi, perhaps fearing a reckoning of his wartime actions, was initially classified as a follower, a designation that carried the potential for punishment. Undeterred, he leveraged testimonials, employed a bit of strategic maneuvering that some would whisper bordered on manipulation, by the way. This effort eventually saw him reclassified as a lesser offender, a label that reeked more of convenience than true absolution. Rudolph, on the other hand, seemed to slip through the cracks of denazification with relative ease. This perceived disparity, this whiff of injustice, only served to fan the flames of animosity already burning between the two brothers. The simmering resentment boiled over, poisoning the well of their once shared past. By 1949, the inevitable occurred. The Dassler brothers, their bond irrevocably fractured by the burdens of war and the weight of their wartime choices, decided to split definitively. Adi, clinging to the remnants of their shared dream, took control of one half of the factory, registering the name Adidas, a portmanteau of his nickname Adi and their family name Dassler. Meanwhile, Rudolph ventured out on his own, establishing his own sporting goods company christened Puma. The town of Herzogenaurach was now home to two bitter rivals. Not two brothers who shared a dream, but their shared history of ambition, betrayal, and the lingering stain of a dark past would forever color the intense competition that was to come. The stage was now set for a new chapter with an enduring family feud. Decades bled into one another, each year a fresh coat of paint on a facade that hid a gruesome truth. Adidas, for the most part, remained eerily silent about its Nazi past. The narrative the company spun was a carefully curated one, a tale of post-war innovation and athletic triumphs. It was a story that conveniently omitted the uncomfortable stain of the Third Reich. This orchestrated amnesia left a bitter taste in the mouths of many, particularly those who had endured the horrors inflicted by the Nazi regime. The silence felt like a slap in the face, a refusal to acknowledge the role the company, and by extension the Dassler brothers, had played in that dark chapter of history. But time, a relentless tide, has a way of eroding even the most carefully constructed walls of silence. As the 20th century drew to a close, historians with a renewed passion for uncovering the truth began to dive deeper into the Dassler brothers' past. And the research unearthed a trove of information, shedding light on the extent of the brothers' involvement with the Nazi Party. Public pressure fueled by these revelations began to mount. The carefully crafted image of Adidas flickered uncertainly under the harsh glare of scrutiny. The company, finally forced to confront the ghost it had spent years trying to bury, would soon find itself on the path towards a long overdue reckoning. Historians chipped away at the carefully constructed narrative Adidas had built. Journalists, sniffing out a story, pursued the truth. Most importantly, the voices of those who had suffered under the Nazi regime or their descendants began to rise in a chorus of outrage. The carefully cultivated image of Adidas began to tarnish, revealing the ugly truth beneath the veneer. By the year 2000, the pressure had become undeniable. Adidas, cornered and with its reputation teetering on the brink, finally made a move. A formal investigation into the company's past was commissioned, a desperate attempt to outrun the gathering storm. The resulting report, published in 2005, was a bombshell. It wasn't just an uncomfortable truth, it was a gaping wound in the company's constructed self-image. The report laid bare the Dassler brothers' ties to the Nazi Party, their participation in the regime's machinery, and the horrifying truth: their use of forced labor during the war. This wasn't just a stain on the company's reputation, it was a stain on its very soul. The fallout was swift and brutal. Shareholders that were in the reflected glory of the brand saw their investments threatened. Consumers, disillusioned by the revelations, expressed outrage on a global scale. Adidas CEO Herbert Hainer, caught in the eye of the storm, faced a crisis unlike any the company had ever encountered. The brand that had built its reputation on athletic excellence was now synonymous with something far more sinister: complicity in one of history's darkest chapters. To his credit, Hainer stepped up to the plate. In a televised press conference, the weight of the company's past etched on his face, he issued a public apology. His words, though carefully scripted, acknowledged the company's failings and the pain it had caused. Adidas, he pledged, would go on a path of atonement. Educational initiatives were promised, designed to shed light on this dark chapter of history. Memorials to the victims were proposed, a way to honor the memory of those who had suffered under the Nazi regime. But apologies, as they say, are just words. The damage seemed irreparable. The image of Adidas was forever tarnished. The company now faced a daunting task: how to reconcile its image of innovation with the disturbing reality of its origins. Some viewed Adidas' actions as a genuine attempt at atonement. Educational initiatives were launched, shedding light on the horrors of the Nazi era. Scholarships were established for Holocaust survivors, a small gesture of solace for those who had endured unimaginable suffering. The company even went so far as to fund a museum dedicated to the history of Herzogenaurach during the Third Reich, a reminder of a town forever stained by its association with the Nazi Party. Yet, skepticism remained, a persistent undercurrent. Critics scoffed at these efforts, dismissing them as mere public relations exercises designed to deflect from the company's true culpability. The financial compensation offered to forced laborers during the war, they argued, was a pittance, a slap in the face to those who had been robbed of their freedom and dignity. The shadow of the Third Reich, it seemed, stretched long, its darkness still clinging to Adidas like a shroud. As this debate continues to rage on, it's a festering wound on the corporate conscience. Can a corporation truly atone for the sins of its past? Is it possible to separate the brand from the actions of its founders? And this is exactly why the final chapter in the Adidas Nazi story remains unwritten. Will the company's efforts at atonement be enough to outrun the demons that have been unearthed? Only time and the sincerity of its actions will tell. But what do you think about it? Let us know in the comments section.